Today we're looking at the Eachine Mustang P51D, and this is one of three warbirds which they have in like a 400 millimeter wingspan series. So today I'm looking at the Mustang P51D, and I've also ordered the T28, so I'll have a look at that further on. This is a ready-to-fly kit, so everything is included. What I think is nice is that this comes with this box and this, foam piece, and inside we find, of course, the actual Mustang, which to me at least looks, nice. The quality of the foam is, okay. It's a bit bendy, which is good because it can take a hit or two. It does also, feature carbon in the main wing and in the stabilizer, so that will help it to last a little bit longer. It's also interesting that this one has a prop and spinner that actually pops off if you hit this one, so that will save the prop a lot, and you even get a spare prop, so that's nice. This one uses a brushed motor, so it's a gearbox inside. And it also comes with things like landing wheels in a little plastic bag with a screwdriver. There's also, I haven't removed it yet, there's also a spare prop underneath, and you actually get two batteries. So these are one cell 400 millimeter batteries, which is really nice, and they're supposed to last 14 minutes each. So that's great if that's true. And there's also this, USB type charger, which I'm not, too fond of, because this one is rather slow. I think it takes 2.5 hours to fully charge each battery. On the other hand, if they do last 14 minutes, I have, half an hour flight time, which is nice. It also comes with a remote, and this one is very similar to some of the Volantex RC airplanes. So I guess, Volantex, Eachine, maybe they're the same brand, maybe, I don't know. It also features auto stabilization, so it does have 3 modes. So there's a switch on this side which says expert, mid and beginner. So in beginner it's auto level and you cannot do too much, and in expert you can do anything, and I guess the mid mode is a more able plane but still stabilized. And it also has an interesting feature, which this button to the left is actually says acrobatics on front. So even in beginner mode, if you press this one, you enter like an acrobatic mode where you control the movement. So I guess, for instance, if you pull the elevator down, the airplane will do a loop, and if you go straight to one side, I guess it will roll. So that's interesting. This one, it's plastic and not really too fun to handle, although I think it's okay. So I will also be looking at how to set this one up with a OpenTX remote. So this is the Jumper T16 Pro, and I'll show you in a minute how to set it up. All in all, I think this is a really nice one because it's inexpensive. It's small, so that means you can fly in smaller places. You don't have to have a large field or something like that. And I think, the quality of this one, hopefully it will fly fine. It's too windy today, so I cannot go out to fly today, but another day I will. And it will also be interesting to compare this one to the T28 if they have any flight characteristics that sets them apart. So let's look at how to set up the TX then. Here's the T16 Pro, and I've already set it up. So this says Eachine on this one, and if I go into my model settings, the first thing I have to do is actually to scroll down and pick the right protocol. So here we can see I have choose under the internal RF. It says multi V761 and 4 channel, and this is actually pretty much what you have to do. So pick these options, and you power the airplane, and you bind it, and then it's bound. And if we look under mixes, then this is the channel assignment. So for channel 1, aileron, channel 2, elevator, channel 3, throttle, channel 4, rudder, and channel 5 is actually the flight mode. And here I've used the SE switch, which is this one, to control the flight mode. So this is a 3-position flight mode. And if we go one page back to the inputs, what I've done here is actually I've set up this one. So I have on this switch, which is the SD switch, I have set up rates. So on this line we have ailerons, which is set to in this top position, which is high rates, 100% servo throw, and 30% expo. And then in the mid mode I have 70% throw and 30% expo, and in the low setting I have extra 60% throw and 30%. I think it's a really nice thing to do, because even if you fly 100% most of the time, if you feel you have to limit the ability to control the plane, it's also nice just to have a switch and you can reduce the servo throw, so that's a good thing. And to do this actually it's quite simple. You have one, if I should use this one for, I just press this one, long press, and I go into edit, and here I have all the options. So weight is for the actual throw, which you adjust, and the curve is the expo curve, and then the which switch. So you can look at this graphic presentation. If I flip this switch, you will see I have full movement, and here's 70% and here is 60%. So I think this is a nice starting point to have 3 good options. So even if you're a beginner or if you're experienced, you can have the airplane set up and just flip the switch, change how it operates. So that's pretty much it. It's very simple. I guess this was the simplest one to set up. If we go scroll down to this one, I have the flight modes, for instance, on channel 5, and I've picked as you can see here, if I go into edit, you can see I have the SC switch. So if I flip this one, you can actually see how it moves. So this is the top position, which I suppose is the beginner mode, and then we go into the mid mode, and then we go into the expert mode. And well, that's pretty much it, really. So now the T16 Pro is bound to the Mustang, and everything works. The only thing that isn't really working, or maybe has to be set up some other way, is this acrobatic button. On the other hand, I'm not sure if this is just a gimmick or if it does work, like a useful thing. So I probably will try to fly this one both with the stock remote and my T16 Pro. Although I do like this one more because you can set up a timer on this one, and I can do dual rates, and I can pick the switches, which is suits me in a better way. So I think that's it for now, and I will try to find a nice day to fly this one, and I'll get back. Okay, so today it's finally not raining, so I will try to get the Eachine P51D in the air. And I'm using my jumper T16 Pro this time. And it's kind of a difficult spot to fly at because there are a lot of high trees. But here it goes. So this is actually my second battery, and so I just used the first battery to get to know the P51D, and this time I said to myself I will try to keep this one in the air as long as possible, so it will be like a kind of a endurance test of the battery life. And on the first few flights I actually did crash into a couple of branches, and I actually got stuck in the tree at least one time, so this spot is kind of difficult. Although this day it's dead calm, so there's no wind. It was quite cold, very cold in the morning, and still it's cold. So I'm just trying to, use this place as good as I can. So there's a lot of city traffic from the nearby highway, but it's difficult to hear the plane right now. But I have to say this one is really quiet. And I'm actually flying this one in the mid position, so I'm not in the beginner or expert mode. I tried to go into the expert mode and try to do a couple of loops, but I was afraid I was going to end up high up in the tree and I couldn't retrieve the plane. So for this one I settled for the mid setting, and I used my mid rates, which are 70% throw and 30% expo, and I think it worked fine. And it's no problem making tight turns with this one. I mean, just look at it. It's so steady, it's easy to fly this one. And even in the mid mode, it's quite easy to, bank it nicely and just have the rudder to swing the tail around. So you can make, tight turns. And I'm, coming towards me, I try to reduce throttle and just glide. And I think this one glides nice. It's not, the nose doesn't dip, so it does actually, keep the level. And on the first few flights, I did crash into a couple of branches, and also. I went too low a couple of times, so I hit the ground. And the prop, it does come off with, even a slight bump, it does come off. And it was quite difficult to find the prop in this, a lot of leaves on the ground when the prop ended upside down, so I couldn't see the red spinner. But I have to say, this one it's really easy to fly. And it's no problem going fast or slow, and it's both in the beginner and mid mode. It's so steady, it's so level, and I mean, I think this will really be a perfect beginner plane. Although it's a low wing airplane, it does behave very nicely. And I actually like the angle wing, which angle upwards and outwards. And this Mustang really looks nice. And it's so inexpensive also. So you can see tight turns are no problem. And then I had a little bit of bumps there, but it was me just having too big input on the elevator. And I mean, this is a long flight. I'm just trying to keep the Mustang in the air as long as possible. So I will probably, end up with the battery losing power and, just dropping out of the sky somewhere. And the reason I'm at this location is where I live. There are too many houses and not that many open areas, so I have a couple of choices, and this one is the nearest one, and it's it's not a field but an open space where there are usually there aren't any people around, so I can have this location for myself. And towards on my backside, I have high trees, so it's like a small pocket of open space. So I know it's kind of boring just having almost the same loop over and over again, but I said to myself, try to keep this one in the air as long as possible, and check how long will the battery last. Oh, that was a close one. So I guess I get a bit tired after a few minutes. It's difficult to keep the concentration when you're doing the same thing over and over. So when I return towards me, I always reduce throttle and try to glide. I just pick up speed as I go away from me. And I have to say, this one, I mean, I cannot think anything on the actual plane that I would like to improve further, because I mean it's so tiny. I think for such this size it's very detailed, and it looks great. It flies excellent. It's pretty fast. You can go slow and fast. I haven't really tried to do the acrobatics with this one, because the first one I did, I ended up in a tree, so I realized I just couldn't do it on this location. And I mean the battery life seems to be excellent so far, and it's inexpensive. The only thing that might not be that great is the controller. On the other hand, I mean it's a RTF kit, so everything is included, and I applaud them really for having like 2 batteries, and I believe there is also a 3 battery version. And what's interesting, when I get this one of the batteries was actually stuck in the battery compartment, and the other one was in the transmitter. In the transmitter battery compartment. So I guess this is because when you ship these batteries, they have to be in a kind of secure location. So just look at it, it's so level, flies so steady. I know it's difficult to see when you have the plane against the trees, but then again, I tried to put myself in different spots on this location, but I did actually end up in trees when I couldn't have a clear view on all the turns. So I would love to bring this one to a larger field of some sort, so I can just let it rip and do all kinds of acrobatics with it. But sometimes you're just limited for what you can do. And I really wanted to try this one and get it up in the air. I think the banking is really nice looking. So again, tight turns, no problem recovering when you're going low. I think I might reduce my expo maybe a bit, but I think the mid setting and the 70% rate, I think is a good choice, because it's still not over reacting to my input, and still I can make tight turns like this one, pretty tight. So the box said 14 minutes of flight time, and we'll see if I manage to get 14 minutes or if I can go less or more than 14 minutes. I'm not going full throttle. I'm going full throttle when I'm going away from me, but other than that, I mean, maybe I'm at half throttle, and when I return, I'm reduced to 0. So if they say like 14 minutes, it should be really maybe a little bit longer. And the times when I did hit the branch and hit the ground, the plane didn't show any damage at all. I mean, the prop just pops off, and the biggest problem for me was to find it among the leaves. So would I recommend this one? Well, absolutely. I think it's it's an excellent flyer, and it's at the right price point. And I'm very anxious to try the Eachine T28, but so hopefully it will arrive in a week or two. If I would compare this one to the Horizon Hobby Trojan S T28, I think this one flies actually better in many aspects. I still think that the T28 from Horizon Hobby does actually look really nice with the yellow, and I like that the wings are angled a bit more than this one. But they are, very similar size. I think this one is 400 millimeters, and the Trojan I think is like 390 millimeters. So they are very similar, and the weight is, just about similar. Although I had to put a counterweight in front of the T28 to have it fly more level, and this one is just perfect out of the box. And even when I increase throttle, it doesn't pitch up so much. So I think that's great. It's much easier to keep the level. I mean, just look at it. It's so nice. It's gliding. I know it's getting kind of boring, but when you have to check battery life, I think you just have to just keep on going. And I'm glad I haven't crashed or got too low so far, but eventually I suppose I will lose power when the battery is about to go empty. So I might lose a bit of power, so I think we're about to go out of battery pretty soon at least. I haven't checked the time, but I mean this was a really long flight, one of the longest I've made, non-stop. And overall, I mean, I'm impressed by this tiny airplane. So let's see if I can make another turn. It's a bit slow. Okay, I definitely feel that this one is going to, go down pretty soon. Oh, another turn, great. Okay, so that was the end of the battery. Well, pretty long anyway, so thank you for watching.